it came out differently when the request was made.
Oh, I see. Oh, really? Wait,
That's why I never asked for any more questions or anything of the sort.
Oh.
I'm totally unprepared. I must tell you, but I will give it my best shot.
Oh my God, I'm truly sorry from our side, Prof. Samim. I will, yes, my sincere apologies for that. Yes.
It's all right. We'll do our best. As always.
Okay, so we're letting the so we're still receiving incoming participants. Maybe at around 10:03 a.m. or so. Maybe at around 10:05 a.m. should work with everyone, right? Hi, good evening, Prof. Ali.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much for coming to our forum. Actually, we're still actually waiting for the incoming attendees, so it's totally okay. We're going to start at around 1 more minute. So just a recap to Prof. Ali and also to all the attendees. We're going to have the main discussion at around 1 hour 15 minutes, in which Taimuli is going to be moderating. So Taimuli Segari is our moderator today, and after that, at around 11:15 a.m., we're gonna cater Q&A sessions from all of our attendees and also audiences via YouTube. So yep, so that's the basic runaround walkthrough of today's session, Prof. Ali. I hope it's clear to you. Okay, cool.
Yes.
So okay, let's see. It's okay, T-9 seconds.
Great. So the pandemic represents a very rare but narrow window of opportunity to kind of reflect, reimagine, and reset our world. And these were the wise and very relevant words of none other than Professor Klaus Schwab, the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum. A very warm welcome, everyone who has tuned in today on this very bright Friday morning via Zoom and YouTube. I am Painmoli Segaran, an ecology student of University Malaya, and I will be moderating this assuredly informative discussion. And it is truly an honor and privilege to have all our panelists from distinguished distinguished public institutions of the country. And we have 4 trailblazers on board today, and in no particular order are Professor Dr. Samim Abdul Karim, the Dean of University Malaya's Faculty of Computer Science and Information Technology. Her current research interests include artificial intelligence in medicine, machine learning, data analytics, intelligent techniques, ontologies, image processing, and also biomedical informatics. We have Associate Professor Dr. Maizatul Akmar bin Ismail, the Deputy Dean of University Malaya's Faculty of Science and Information Technology. Her research involved reviewing mobile apps to improve self-management of patients with epilepsy, which was actually very intriguing to me. And this was one of the very unique studies she did among the other research papers she has participated in. And also her research involved looking into various domains within the apps. For example, seizure tracking, seizure response, medication adherence, and other features. And also our third panelist today, we have Professor Technologist Dr. Ali bin Slamat, the Dean of University Technology Malaysia's Malaysia-Japan International Institute of Technology. And I think this thing was actually the talk of the town earlier this year, actually, the UTM Ericsson 5G Innovation Center, which for the fact was actually established after UTM's academic staff participated in a leadership and mentorship program, and which is very much related to what we're going to talk about today. And gratefully, we will be able to dissect this further with Professor Ali in a bit, and also finally Associate Professor Technologist Dr. Nurhizam Shafi, the Deputy Dean of University Kebangsaan Malaysia's Faculty of Information Sciences and Technology. And one of his research papers that also got me very intrigued actually, and also is very relevant to what we're going to talk about today, is the issues and challenges related to cybersecurity in ASEAN countries. So a very powerful and very influential lineup of speakers we have today, all very willing to share their inputs and thoughts on e-leadership post-pandemic through their expertise and also vast array of experiences. And also not forgetting Fikri Hakimi, who's representing the National STEM Month of University Malaya STEM Center. And talking about the National STEM Month, it is an initiative that was also absorbed by University Malaya alongside other higher public education institutes across the country, and which will also be coming to an end on the 16th of September. And over the course of this entire month, has successfully organized various discussions previously focused on kepimpinan cendekiawan dalam dunia STEM, gender equality in STEM, as well as COVID-19. Hence, all of us from the National STEM Month Secretariat are extremely grateful for your participation throughout the entire month. So do fill up the attendance form. Fikri will be sending in the chat box via Zoom and also YouTube's live chat, as you will be receiving an e-certificate as a token of appreciation. So now, without further ado, let's just begin the discussion. And just to get the ball rolling a little, e-leadership essentially defines a new era that kind of brings 2 entirely different domains together, the traditional and also the tech-related managerial skills. And from what I understand, some crucial aspects of e-leadership that is required to effectively either run an initiative, a project, an organization, or even our panelists to kind of run an entire faculty in a university is actually rapid decision making, being updated with current events, and also being market, business, and tech savvy. So now essentially the question is kind of directed to all four panelists we have today, which is how does e-leadership kind of differ from conventional and traditional leadership methods, and how is it kind of related to the current climate of progression? So firstly, shall we hear from Professor Sami?
I think the biggest problem in e-leadership or e-meetings, whatever you may have, is the inability to meet face-to-face. It is difficult when you're trying to put across your message, any ordinary message, or when you're trying to communicate when you are not face-to-face. I mean, even this webinar may be better handled, or better, the environment could be slightly better if we are actually in the same room talking to each other without going through any platforms. So what I'm trying to say is that whatever you're doing, whatever, it may be e-learning, it may be e-meetings, it may be webinars or whatever, it is difficult to put your message across when you need to convey anything if you're not actually face-to-face. And this is a little bit more sensitive and a little bit more crucial when you're trying to deliver bad news, or when you need to correct something which is, that when you need to correct something, or when you need to, I wouldn't say reprimand, but when you need to maybe just say something that may hurt another person's feelings. And this is when, the fact that we have this barrier, that we are not seeing that person face-to-face, is going to be difficult. And at the same time, some of us, when we are meeting in whatever platform, may not even turn on our cameras. So we don't know actually the person's feelings. We don't know the person's reaction to what we have just said. In this room right now, we can see all the panelists, we can see you, we can see the STEM Center, but you'd be surprised if there are more than 20 of us. Most of us will be turning off our cameras because of various reasons. So that is what makes e-leadership a little bit different from the traditional leadership, I would say. And a leader will need to know how to handle this, will need to know that what the other, if you're trying to convey something, what the audience is, the scope, the state of mind the audience is in. When we come to this e-learning webinar, we all know what we want. But in a meeting, a day-to-day meeting, like let's say a faculty meeting, we don't know what. In our faculty meeting, for instance, there may be close to 50 people in the meeting. And we don't know the state of mind the person is in, his feelings, his or her feelings, their emotional well-being. So it is crucial for a leader to know all this, before we can, if we need to run an organization smoothly. And in my case, I take a little bit of time sending private messages to most of my workers, my co-workers, my support staff, and so on. And I think that takes a little, it smoothens the roughness, the edges a little. But I don't know about the others, but this is what I do. I find that having a meeting with 50 or 40 over people and not looking at their faces, even teaching actually. Teaching is even worse because you don't know what the student is doing at the other end. They could be playing games.
Great, thank you so much, Professor Samir. So on that note, since we're talking about more towards the challenges of e-leadership, maybe Dr. Mai, we can kind of talk about how undergraduate students are kind of adapting to the whole e-leadership and transforming or transitioning from traditional leadership methods.
Okay, hi, good morning, everyone. Right, so I think I will talk about these matters on two different side of the coins. Okay, first on us, okay, the so-called leaders, and the one that we are going to lead. So of course, when the pandemic starts last year, I don't know about others, but I feel the pain because it's new. I really don't know how to use Google Meet at that particular time. Then people are talking about Zoom, people are talking about Microsoft Teams, WebEx, okay, and so many online platforms. So, and then I was thinking, okay, how should I deliver this? If in class you can see your students' face, if they didn't say anything, if they don't understand certain topics or certain information that we delivered in class, so we can see from their body language, oh, they don't understand, even though they didn't say anything. So at least we can just repeat. But in front of a screen, we could not see all this. So how do we try to as much as possible trying to be effective, okay, but at the same time trying to also understand that some of the students do not have proper internet connections, okay, they have got their own limitations, okay. So that is on the lecturer's perspective. It's just that one thing that I want to maybe put forward, okay, for instance, you know that of course lecturers, okay, our definite task that we need to deliver is to do teaching and learning, and then we do research and we do consultations. Okay, so as part of teaching and learning, whenever we have delivered our lecture for that particular semester, we do have assessment from students, right? So we can see that whether we have been doing our jobs well or not, okay, based on the assessment results. Surprisingly, what I can observe from these past 3 semesters is that some lecturer who did very well during the normal period, okay, normal period meaning face-to-face, did not perform well online. And on the other hand, okay, those who did not receive good evaluation marks from students, okay, during face-to-face session, did very well during the online session. So this really triggered me. What is happening actually? Why didn't we behave the same, like when we the transition between the online and offline? Okay, why is it different? I observed that I have to call because okay, it's always our policy, if the lecturer did not meet certain numbers, okay, so we call them up, not to punish or anything, just an intervention, asking why is it your teaching evaluation is low and all, okay, and then they said, I don't know, I just do whatever that I've been doing for the past 15, 20 years. I didn't change anything. That's the way I teach students. The students before are happy with that, but I don't know, okay, why is it like this? Okay, so for us to take any action, so to give show cause letter for this kind of issue is we take this as outliers actually, because we don't know, okay, the lecturer might have done their job well, but perhaps the acceptance of students, maybe they are not happy with the way the lecture is presented. Okay, so on the student side, okay, on the student side, some of them say that they don't really enjoy having online classes, okay, particularly because even though okay, we try to diversify our teaching methods, okay, by having Kahoot, by having word wall, by having different kind of activities, not just delivering lectures, okay. Adult students, okay, we are talking about university students, maybe the situation will be different with primary school students, okay, where they like these kind of activities. Okay, this thing didn't work well with them actually, okay, because it's tiring, because the nature of the class, okay, you know that you are a student yourself, right? Just imagine how many hours a day that you have to attend lectures from morning till the afternoon. Okay, let's say before 5. It's good if your class end by 5 o'clock. Okay, what if your lecturer said, okay, I have got something that is coincident with this, so I have to delay the class to 8 at night. Okay, so this kind of thing, if I put myself on the student's shoes, okay, I could understand this, because it's really tiring. Okay, the screen time especially, okay, it's really costly on the student side. Okay, so I would say the challenge is, if you're asking about challenge, those are challenge. Okay, if you're asking what can we do about this, I think there is no, yes or no answer or definite answer to say that, okay, this will works well if you do it online. Okay, because very soon, okay, the government starting to have the students to come back to campus again to really experience face-to-face. But on the other side of the coins, I would say this pandemic is actually a blessing in disguise. Okay, we could see that way forward. It really changed the landscape of our teaching and learning. I could see that, you don't have to cancel your class anymore if you have to go abroad, okay, to attend presentations or to do field work, okay, for your research. You can still continue with your class anywhere in the world that you are in. So no problem with that. So tak ada issue lagi, people have to cancel and then replace and then could not cover certain syllabus or topics within their the semester. Okay, so always, even though we are looking at challenge, okay, we need to also look at the bright side of it. Some of our lecture now, I would say, said that, okay, it is now being convenient for us to deliver our lecture online. We did a survey for our students, okay, maybe for, they are not doing it for all, perhaps for their own class. The students said that it's okay, because, as long as you do not deliver 3 hours lecture straight, even though you're given 3 hours, because 3 credit equivalent to 3 hours a week. Okay, perhaps the lecture is just 1 hour. The other 2 hours could be a discussion or tutorial. Okay, and then the student can post everything on the forum or other kind of electronic methods without having to be there for 3 hours. So I think this situation actually, in way forward, would actually change the landscape of our teaching and learning. I think that is all from me. Okay,
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, great. Thank you so much, Dr. Mai. I think we've heard from both our panelists kind of touched about an educator's point of view, how teaching and learning processes have evolved over the past 2 years, actually. So now we can kind of dive into this. It would be great if Professor Ali can kind of kupaskan this a little bit. Talking from a technologist point of view, how has e-leadership kind of defined innovation in Malaysia? How has it changed since Malaysia is now heading towards a very competitive industrial revolution 4.0? Sorry, Professor Ali, I believe you muted.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I think, can you hear the voice of me?
Yes, yes, I
All right. I think the situation that changing us from the normal ways of delivering and teaching and learning through face-to-face and now becoming like virtual, as being stated by the other two panels. Yeah, that cannot make it as a hindrance for us to grow in a way. Yeah, because being involved in the national AI roadmap for Malaysia, and this is a kind of evolution that is in place, that we have to pick up these post-pandemic challenges that we need to look at as well, in terms of how we innovate, how we grow ourselves, yeah, especially from the educational sectors toward the industrial sectors that translating into the sustainabilities of the country. So with that in place, the proper infrastructure and services also very important that has been outlined for the past numbers of years in the country. Say if we don't have these 5G's interconnected networks across Malaysia, also it's not 100% very much in place, but we still can outreach it through this virtual learning in a way. Yeah, of course there are some difficulties for the student, as we can see that they are coming from B40s and below that, and outreaching the capacities of the virtual learning is might be very challenges for their families, but there are some mechanism that has been put in place in terms of the policy. Back to your question just now about innovation, I would say that this is a time that how because people are less interacting towards normal face-to-face communication, yeah, but the other ways around that is people are engaging very much through social media, for Facebook, Twitters, and of course, I mean, it's becoming now like a traditional. People are using WhatsApp and Telegram. It's a norm to everyone, yeah. But through these, social medias that being already in place, then the youth, yeah, the young generation, can actually think about the ways how actually to innovate, yeah. And as you might remember, the Industrial Revolution 4.0 that's coming before the pandemic, people were talking about the student as the curator, yeah. Now you can see that there are many so-called like instant fan, for instance, yeah. So you can set up our own studio at home, for instance, yeah. So you can just use your smartphone. You can be having a million of followers across the globe, and you get paid for that, yeah. So of course not everyone can be like that, but along the way there is a processes involved, the value chain of doing a production. You want to make your production making better, then you need to have a sort of processes involved, and people involved with different expertise, and that's a kind of opportunities that can be created based on this creativity in a way, yeah. So that's one part I would say. And the other part is of course we are now faced by the pandemic, as mentioned by our two panels. Very challenging for us to look at it, but definitely by having this, students are now preferring themselves to learn whatever they think that they wish to learn, yeah. So it's not being forced. The information cannot be forced to them anymore. So whatever. So I think before pandemic, we were talking about in the curriculum development, we call it fluid classroom or fluid curriculum, meaning that there are some structure. Probably 40% is a core. If you want to take computer science, for instance, yeah, then the 60% is I would like to be a cook. So you can learn from the people who actually expertise in doing a cooking, and they can give a credit to you. So you get 3 credit hours for that certificate of cooking. Although it can be online, but there may be a test, the testing process along the way. So it's in a way it's a bit of creative on this, yeah. So the fluidity of this thing is actually, that's what we need to develop because of the challenges of the natures now, because we cannot concentrating in our class. Of course, if it is in engineering program, definitely you need to have you be in the lab, do this kind of specific equipment yourself. But if you are not, then you have the opportunity to grow. And back to your question about developing this innovation. So a lot of creativities can be developed, but the notion of embracing or initiating this kind of ideas to the youth, for instance. So you can create new things from this, and it's beneficial to the societies. And remember, for the nation in the coming future, it's about how we can sustain for the growth of the nation by capitalizing the infrastructure and services that we have at this moment in time, and of course preparing them for the future's type of economy in this way. So that's my take on this discussion. So I hope that is something that can be pondered upon in the discussion. Thank you.
Professor Ali, I feel like we left off in like a very hopeful note this time around. It was more of futuristic ideologies, I believe. Like it's more towards how the youth kind of believe and think, I feel, being a student myself now. And also what you mentioned about we are not restricted to kind of what we kind of learn in classes. There are lots of opportunities available outside, hands-on opportunities as well. So yes, thank you so much for that, Professor Ali. So now finally, Dr. Nurhizam, since we talked about teaching and learning systems and then how we can learn outside of academics and a more sustainable development, can you explain to us how leadership is kind of obviously differing from traditional leadership approaches has kind of boosted the presence of ASEAN globally? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Timoli and respective professors and panel. So by the way, if you are talking about so-called e-leadership within the ASEAN, basically, if we look at as well, what happening, it is like new norms to us, as mentioned by Prof. Datin just now. You never know. We have a meeting and then they turn off the web camera, even when we are with our student as well. When we ask, sometimes they were not around, just turn on and they were doing something else. Okay. By the way, when we are locked within this lockdown, almost for 2 years, I would say that people are at home. Most of the time, we are doing a kind of online transaction, business, a kind of things. Every day, living even in my area, for example, almost within 1 hour, Lazada, Zalora, and all this logistic with Tintin. Hello, sir, how are you at home and everything? You just imagine, meaning to say that people are working from home. It's like a new normal of these so-called pandemic issues. And now we're going to move to so-called endemic. And I'm in Selangor, I'm happy lah. Afternoon, I'm going to PJ. For example, there is no sekatan jalan raya, roadblock, for example. So this is a common phenomena when I talk to my colleague in Jakarta, in Singapore, about the so-called cybersecurity. The challenge is, I would say, similar. They mentioned about when they stay at home, most of them, they are having the so-called online shopping. Like yesterday, you have the 9 of 9, 9-9. I think Timoli aware of that, what to buy and everything.
Oh yeah, it seems like Doctor is very updated with these things. Very amusing.
You know what happens sometimes? I would say naive people, they think that, normal, maybe for us, is something make out of sense, when we receive email, okay, you want something, millions and millions, but some people aware. I have a neighbor working with our embassy in Jakarta, for example, in charge of the so-called custom attaché, our custom, jabatan custom. Sorry to say, ladies came to them, to her, ma'am, Ibu, I received this parcel kind of thing, request a parcel to send to Jalan Tunku Abdul Rahman in KL. 50,000 ringgit just spent. I want to meet the so-called future love. This is kind of Macau scam, love scam happening too. And then one is what the Jalan, during that time, Jalan Kinabalu. Now they changed to the names, right? Happens. I was like, are you sure? Yeah, serious. Bu, I received this and everything in Malaysia. So tarnish image of Malaysia, for example, happening almost 100,000 ringgit. Imagine. People still don't have this so-called awareness. Not only that, okay, just to share, 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, one of a lecturer, Prof. Ali maybe know, but I don't want to mention, was scammed by a police, I would say, Inspector Sahab. 10,000 ringgit. Serious. I told him, you are really, sorry, you are really fool. You are a PhD in cyber security. How come this happened to you? Zam, 10,000 Zam terbang. They call me from IPD Penang. You ada buat kesalahan. What happened? Please remember when they're doing it, Friday like today, because the bank will close on Saturday, Sunday, or maybe there's a Chinese New Year or Hari Raya. Remember that. They will call, keep on calling, and then you will say this is a pukau. It's not a hypnotism whatsoever. It's the way of social engineering. I asked my friend in Singapore and Jakarta, it also happened to us lah when we have this center. You can ask even to cybersecurity Malaysia. Many cases happening because why? Sometimes common sense, I don't know, greedy or whatever. I say, hey, doctor, kenapa? Why do you, in Malay, sorry, why do you take this? Oh, because you say, I got some drug, and then you are a lecturer, how come you are the drug? Oh, you just push me and interrogate and everything over the phone. I feel scared, I transfer. How easy you transfer 10,000 ringgit? That was the end of 2019, before the COVID. I was in the meeting with the TNC also. You see, how come we are so-called maybe learned scholars, cybersecurity somehow happen like this. So please be aware, maybe with our audience as well. Again, one more thing, sometimes, sorry, this has happened to my daughter. My daughter, first year diploma, they want to buy something online. Wow, the guy mentioned, show the card, front and behind, the CCV, everything. I say, you are so, why, how come, really, that number, and then tomorrow 800 ringgit gone. Then your PTPTN loan to buy computer. Imagine sometimes this, I would say, a same phenomenon happening in Thailand when I ask in Jakarta. So we must be aware, albeit that we are staying at home for a very long time, and this is always happening. So I think that's my 2 cents from my side when we are talking. Real case studies happening. Okay, over to you. Yeah,
Great, thank you so much, Dr. Nurhizam. I think all 4 panelists, we've kind of discussed about the challenges, be it in teaching and learning situations, because me being a student myself, just finishing my first year and about to start my second year, I haven't been to UM as well. I don't know how the hostel is. I don't know how the campus is like. I've taken a drive around the campus, but not been in hostel before, and listening to my seniors and all saying, it's actually very fun, but I don't get the essence of it. I don't actually get how fun it actually can be. So yes, that's definitely one of the downsides. But also, as you know, with the note that I started off with, the pandemic kind of has a silver lining to it, which is being able to, or providing the opportunity to kind of change the landscape of the things that we've been doing traditionally. And also talking about how it can be very cost effective at times, just like what Dr. Mai mentioned, you don't have to be at 2 places at once and having to have cancel classes and things like that. And also talking about what Professor Ali mentioned about students being e-leaders, being innovation hubs, and how we can progress sustainably, and also about social engineering tactics mentioned by Dr. Nurhizam. So these are very important things that we as potential, the youth here today, the audience as potential e-leaders should actually definitely take note of. And moving on to the second aspect of the discussion, and with the pandemic in place, and it doesn't seem like the work from home routine is going away anytime soon, actually. It truly has been a challenge for various sectors, apart from teaching and learning, educators, and the education sector by itself, to kind of adapt to the transition. Talking about manufacturers, they've either had to cease operations, or even in universities, we've had to limit the number of employees within office and within the premises, which has indefinitely led to decreased productivity rates, because it has been a challenge to kind of adapt to changes, as the previous panelists mentioned before. And youth unemployment rates in Malaysia is also at an all-time high. And e-leadership basically is an intersectional aspect. It isn't only limited to, what we typically think of business management strategies or, things like that. So hence I'd like to hear from Dr. Mai and Dr. Nurhizam actually, how is digitalization and elements of leadership, e-leadership, is a part of kind of most, if not all disciplines, such as teaching, entrepreneurship, innovation, manufacturing, among others, during and post-pandemic. Maybe Dr. Mai, you can start off first.
So
Mai
talking about
first.
perhaps the overall umbrella of this is like digital transformation. Okay, so digital transformation is also equivalent to change management. Okay, so apart from education, I think this is very much related to IR4. Okay, when the gist of IR4 is all about automation. Okay, so companies who do not, do not or not even think of investing in digital transformation will be left behind. So of course, when we talk about digital technology, okay, it is not cheap. Okay, it is expensive. So if one company seek for advice, okay, and then they ask, okay, how much should they spend? Okay, the answer would be on what is your way forward? How do you see yourself in another 5 years? You want to be relevant in the industry or you want to be left behind? So, but the problem with, for instance, the SME, for instance, okay, maybe they are reluctant, okay, especially those are actually what actually affected, okay, those industries like the hotel industries, the tourism industries, okay, the F&B, okay. So, what is digital transformation for these kind of industries? What can be done so that they don't suffer much losses, okay, due to the pandemic? We don't know the future, okay. We slowly with vaccine, okay, we try to have our normal, so-called normal life back, okay. But in the future, we don't know how long are we required to wear mask in public. How long will the social distancing things will be, put in place? How long will this have, will this have to continue? Is it going to be with us forever? Okay, so for those industries who are actually affected, okay, so it is high time for them to look at ways on how they can leverage on the digital technologies. Okay, for instance, e-commerce. Okay, so some of the F&B industries, okay, are starting to rise up again. Okay, they are down before because there's demand, okay, for online food delivery. Okay, working at home, it doesn't come with luxury actually. Okay, people said that, oh, it's easy for you to work at home. Okay, you just wake up, you don't have to drive to work, you don't have to face all the jams and all. But having all the family members at home, okay, you imagine you have to cook for breakfast and then do your work, and then you have to break for like 1 or 2 hours, okay, where you have to cook and make sure everything is settled in the kitchen, go back to work again, okay, and then so doing that for 1.5 years, okay, I don't know, I can't take it anymore. So what I did is that on daily basis, I didn't cook, or I just cook once in the over the weekend and make sure that everything is ready, okay, for it. But this opened an opportunity for F&B industries, okay, because it's not just me, okay, having this kind of situation. Okay, so if they can leverage e-commerce well, there's a lot of online delivery food platform that they can register themselves in. Okay, of course, with that, it's not just registering. Of course, you need to upgrade the infrastructure as well. Okay, how are they going to take orders? Okay, how how do they want to get loyal customers? Okay, they need to have a proper loyalty programs, for instance. Okay, so they need to make use of the cloud technologies. Okay, because now storage is no longer an issue. You can always rent cloud for a very cheap fees every month. Okay, so making use of these technologies, okay, is one way of how they can sustain themselves. Okay, so apart from education industries, I think education is slowly adapting. Okay, even though if you ask me whether okay, for education, even though we are saying that we are adapting to this, if let's say there'll be coming another pandemic after this, okay, we have experience now, okay, but research done, let's say in South Korea, okay, so South Korea is known to have the best technology in the world, okay, they are far forward than most of the Asian country in Asia. Okay, but the research shows that, okay, from last year, okay, the dropout rate, okay, of their university students is increasing. So why is that? This apart from having the best technology, where all the resources are there, they are ready. Okay, let's say the pandemic is declared today, and then they are having lockdown tomorrow. They are ready. Not like us. We are adapting actually, but they are ready in terms of infrastructure. But why is it that they have got the highest dropout of students? Okay, because the students said they can't really adapt with the online learning environment. Okay, similar to Finland, you know that Finland is the best education, I would say, education hub in the whole world. Their methods of teaching being copied by so many countries. Okay, similarly, they just have a very short lockdown period. And yet, with that short lockdown period, okay, the dropout rates or the rate of students who can't actually cope up with the subject that they learn in school is very high compared to the last decades. Okay, so there's if you observe what I try to mention here is that there is the advantage of having digital transformation, but digital transformation alone, okay, is not the only solution. Okay, I think at the end of the day, whatever investment that you make with digital technology, it have to come with human touch. Okay, you still want to feel that, okay, because for instance, the telework, okay, teleworking or remote working is not new. Okay, even before pandemic, it was coined, the word telework, okay, been coined in 1970s, where you are not bound by the physical place on how you should deliver your work. So if 1970s they start telework, so having this working from home right now is not a big issue either. Okay, but the most important things, like what Prof. Samin mentioned before, Prof. Ali mentioned before, okay, is not everything about technology. Okay, how do you come forward? How the leaders come forward? Okay, and motivate. Okay, and then give some human touch to this technology so that it works well. So I think that is hopefully that answer your question, Timali.
Yes, definitely, Dr. Mai. Very hopeful indeed, as always. How you mentioned, the importance of having a human touch. I think that's something that many of us are hoping for as well in various sectors. Having to look at the laptop every single day without having to interact with people, it has taken a toll on mental health, everyone actually from different social strata to talk about that. And also, Dr. Nur Hisam, what is your perspective on it?
Okay, well, as you mentioned, Timoli, actually at the moment, I just finished another meeting. Imagine, simultaneously. So sorry, that's why you're not seeing me talking here, frankly speaking, because we have a meeting with the Ministry of Youth and Sport, in which our apps for these fitness apps like Strava are being developed. Because why? One of the reasons Ministry mentioned, we are still at home in front of our computer and whatever. And then, sorry to say, my PA just arranged the time similar to this one. I would say, oh my goodness, maybe I hope they don't see me that I'm talking beside. Okay, sorry. Okay, what happened is, I would say that the wellness or the so-called work-life balance among the so-called e-leadership, we are in this so-called e-leadership, new norms, facing the notebook, the computer, or the mobile phone is quite, I would say, challenging beside the so-called cybersecurity issues happening. Imagine, I would say that it's almost 2 semesters. I also almost forgotten 2 semesters that we are having these online classes. Do you think that our students are really grab the ideas when we are talking in lab, for example, our studio 3D multimedia programming kind of thing? And I think less than 2% they differ because they will claim that the internet connectivity in their hometown is not good. Imagine, I was like said, hey, how come even at master's level, then our postgraduate, imagine they just buzz off to back to their countries and bye-bye, normal, maybe coming to Malaysia. So how is actually maybe we at this e-leadership to have this kind of work-life balance, not only maybe at the management level, at our support staff, our students, that is very, very challenging as Dr. Mai mentioned. Maybe if we want to relate about the ideas of so-called Industrial Revolution 4, which is good, Prof. Ali mentioned, IR4 kind of thing, how we want to leverage on the technology, at the same time to balance the human nature ideas, because you are not talking, like Prof. Datin mentioned, you are not talking physically in front, but in front of the computer. Are they really, how's the expression? Maybe they are sad, maybe they are stressful. In fact, you see the percentage of suicide in Malaysia. Imagine, more than almost 300. So sad to hear about this, because this is the first time, of course, first time in our history. The last time maybe in 1914, 1918 of the Spanish flu in Malaysia happening. We do not know how to cope. Therefore, I think we as at the leadership level, at universities level, in the society can assist. And we always in the university talking, maybe the kind of quadruple helix. Government, we help the government, the university, the civil society, and the business. How we play the role here? I think STEM Center already make a very good move to share the ideas from us to the public. I saw here around more than 40 happening. Maybe after this you record and share, because it's serious actually about the cybersecurity issues, suicide, and productivity. Do you think that, okay, in Malay we call it bekerja dari rumah, work from home, and 8:39 you clock in? I don't think so. You clock in, and then sometimes I also on my phone went to Mama restaurant. Just don't tell anyone. And then by hearing, listening. But that is true. This is actually how actually we would like. And even when I have students, some of them accidentally on the telephone, it's like yawning, sleeping like this, and then drinking, go, and eating. I was like, wait, excuse me. Are you focusing? Of course, you can do simultaneously anything, but how actually they are focused, how to retain their focus on our courses. So that's issue that we need to what we call it, do a research or study on that. Okay, that's all from me. Okay.
Great, thank you, Dr. Nur Hizam. I think two key things that I understood here is, no matter how much we digitalize things in various sectors, it's always important to kind of have that humanly touch, to kind of make everyone feel at home while they're doing their work. It wouldn't essentially be work, that sort of very pressing situation, but instead keep everyone at ease. And, ultimately, complete digitalization wouldn't be very helpful, but a balance of both would be very great. And also, what Dr. Nur Hizam mentioned about the quadruple helix, that I think that's a new term that I've heard of. And we usually talk about collective initiatives, but I think this is a new term that all of us can be exposed to, and how policy making can also come hand in hand in this to kind of ease the transition of traditional leadership to e-leadership. And moving on to the third question, specifically directed towards Professor Samim and also Professor Ali, being very prominent figures of Malaysia's top public institutions, what are some of the noticeable risks and downsides, apart from what we had mentioned before, like in teaching and learning, we kind of talked about students not being able to pay attention, and it has been very stressful for the educator's point of view. And apart from that, in the educational sector, be it from a young leader or a social or an administrative perspective, maybe Dr. Samin, your take on this?
Okay. As was earlier mentioned, students' life is not just learning. It's not just going to lectures and coming back, doing your assignments, doing your tutorials, and then studying for your exams and sitting for the exams and passing. What is missing here in the e-learning environment is the campus life. The campus life is something which I think is very meaningful to a student. And if that is taken away from the student, we are actually depriving the student of a learning, because this is also a learning environment. The campus is a learning environment. You forge relationships, you form friendships, which takes you, personally speaking, my husband has a friend from his university days who is now a number 1 and number 2 in another country. These are the kind of relationship you build during your university days, because people who go to universities are future leaders of the country and of the world, and that is missing. So but we try our best. When we first heard about this, I think it was sometime last semester, if I'm not wrong, we actually came together and get the students to organize some kind of games, the competition, learn like an e-competition that they can take part in, and at the same time get to know each other, because they are going to lectures, they're going to classes at the same time, but they don't know each other. And in the past, if you go to classes together, you at least know 1 or 2 of your friends. And if you have problems with your notes, or you have problems understanding certain parts of your lecture, you reach out to your friend, or you study together, you go to the library together. This is all gone with e-learning. So with the games that we organized, was it last semester, Dr. Mai? Okay, it was sometime last semester. With the games we organized last semester, we hope that the students had actually, because they had to play some games in teams, we hope that they had actually formed some kind of friendship, some kind of relationship that they can build on. And that can help them, say, tackle things together if they have problems. So this is something that we hope we will be able to at least improve on and give the students some kind of campus life. It may not be the same, but it is as close as we can get to a campus life, to the faculty life. And I think teaching has to take a bit more creativity as well. Like I said, when you have 40 students in the class, they turn off the camera, you don't know what they're doing behind. So we need to stop classes in between. We need to break, the class. We need to stop and get them to participate in the class. And I know that some lecturers have used a lot of platforms just to bring some excitement into the class. Because if you listen to a lecture for 2 hours, in fact, me as a lecturer, after I finish 2-hour class, I feel totally drained. And I'm sure my students either sleep through it, or we God knows what they're doing in the background. So we need to bring a bit more creativity into the class. I know some lecturers have used things like tablets, Padlets. They've done video recordings of their classes just to make things different. they stop the class, how maybe 20 minutes into the class, show the students some video, related video, of course, not some movies, just to add some interest, to get the students to show interest, to maintain their interest, and to sit through class. And I think it has worked to a certain extent. Although, as I said, we might not be able to give them the full campus life, but we do our best, as always. At the same time, we know that some students have problems with connectivity. We have in the past offered them help as far as getting what you call that, the SIM card, and whatever help we can in order for students to connect to the internet and to sit through their classes, to be able to follow. And if they still have problems, we extend our help in various ways, even through financial means. We've set up a fund for students who need them, and this fund is meant to help students in whatever means we can, financial means. So that could be in the form of getting connectivity, if that is what they need, or whatever else that they may need. And I think Dr. Mai may know more, may be able to talk more about this fund, because this within her portfolio as the Deputy Dean of undergraduate. But I feel that we, as a faculty and as a university, we try to help the students, all of the students, in whatever means we can. We may not be experts at mental issues, but even that, we are doing our best in helping them. We've got some experts from the faculty who provide, if need be, like the first line. You know, the first line that student can get in touch with if they need help, if they have some mental issues, if they need someone to talk to. And this is something that that is done in an official capacity through, I can't remember the term that is used, but some of our staff acts as help, to provide help for mental issues as well. And of course, if it's within our help to do so, but if it's beyond our help, then we will have to refer the student to professional help. So these are things that we are aware of. Students may be all alone in their cubicle at home, or they may be all alone in their college, in the residences, and they need someone, they need, you know, we need to reach out to them. And if there are indications that we need to do so, we try and do so where we can. And also we carry out surveys from time to time, just to see how the students are coping.
Great, thank you so much for sharing.
Can I just add a bit on what
Yes, definitely.
Datin Sami mentioned just now about mental health? If you know, I think the university do not have a clear policy on how this mental health thing should be handled. Last time, if students want to withdraw from the semester, or take a semester off or 2 semester off due to mental health challenge or issues, they have to get a letter from psychologists or psychiatrists. The appointment letter, what they said, then the prescription actually come a bit late because it's not there. And then when you went to see the psychologist, they will provide you all the evidence. So it will take so long for the application to be processed. But now, since COVID, I noticed that, students do not have to provide that evidence anymore. Okay, if the reason they want to withdraw from the semester or or to take semester off or 2 semester off due to mental health issues, is sufficient for them to write in the letter. Is sufficient with that particular letter. We don't need to have professional letter anymore. But of course, during that period of time when they are off, okay, we do request that they provide us some evidence. That's it. So it is not as difficult as before, because we take this mental health challenge seriously now, okay, because it is something that is not made up. Okay, we understand now. Okay, it's like compared to last time when they said that I'm depressed. Okay, show me the evidence. How to show evidence that you are depressed? Okay, but I think we are managing that pretty well now.
Thank you so much for sharing, Dr. Marcus. I feel that is something that Malaysian institutions kind of found it very hard to tackle in the very beginning of the pandemic, because it was very overwhelming, to be very honest. The drastic change kind of was very hard to adapt to. But I'm very happy to say that UM kind of has this initiative of an approved gap year, where students can take a semester or two off to kind of venture other opportunities that are out there, to kind of upskill themselves before they kind of start off with their second or third year. So I think that is something that other Malaysian institutions can kind of look into as well, to kind of cater the needs of us undergraduate and postgraduate students. And also with that note, Professor Ali, what other initiatives that are kind of implemented by UTM currently to tackle the challenges and risks of e-leadership and digital transformation?
Okay, I think many of the initiative is quite common that we practice at the public university in Malaysia, as what UM has been practicing. I think more importantly, do this nature of challenges on the the risks of delivering, and of course ensuring the student that able to studies in a very subtle ways. And I think that is very much important to have the kind of level of alerts, yeah, because as being shared just now, students are no longer in the campus. We could not interact with them in a normal way, and the student is actually engaging in the classroom, just a very short period of time, and sometimes they hardly knows each other. If they are first year student like you, Timoli, you may not know your peers in your class face to face. You just made them in virtual in a way, yeah. So level of emotional engagement might be less in a way, yeah. Nevertheless, I think one of the most important part is that to look at the how the communication can be continuing done in a way that there's no gap between the so-called the lectures that giving the materials. And of course, at UTM, I would say probably same as other universities as well. We constantly have our academic advisors having the notion of engaging with the student under their advisories constantly, and towards the extent that to make sure that if anything happen or anything is not in a place at that particular time, or they have some mental issues, not because of them but surrounding situation that forcing them to behave in a way that is not according to the normal ways of learning and understanding the materials given in the class. So I think this is very much important of these activities, yeah. And of course, what we need to do is also to reassure that, yeah, because we also face some students that suddenly, because of this pandemic, the teaching is online, they undergoing for the first semester, and they say that they can't cope with that because the nature of learning is totally different, and they need a specialized a kind of like attentive ways of delivering the materials to them. So these are the things that is happening to our students as well. So what we do is actually we identify first those particular student having this kind of difficulties, and we start to find to be like more engaging with them in different ways, meaning that if the lecturers could not delivering openly in 40 students in the class for one session is quite many, even in real time, in a synchronous mode. So therefore I think what we do is we try to identify if they could not answer the quiz, or they don't respond to the messages given on particular time, and then we have to follow up. Are they okay? Or if we cannot reach them, then we ask the families, the closest families or the closest friend, so what's happened to them. If they really need to have some kind of being away from their studies, definitely we will facilitate that process so that their academic achievement could not be jeopardized based on this situation that they're facing. And of course, the other thing is that, as I said, engaging individual students closely is now part of the activities that we have to do, whereby this is very important for each of our academic advisors to be closer and to understand the nature of the difficulties that the students are facing. And of course, the other thing is we need to reassure that this pandemic is happening to everyone, but definitely it's not going to stop you from acquiring the knowledge that we shared through this period of time. Of course, if there is a need to meet them individually, then we will set up a kind of special meeting and discuss with them. And this is the things that we look at. And of course, usually what we try to overcoming these kind of challenges on e-leadership during this teaching and learning process is we define a set of rules that is clear to everyone, that how we are going to communicate this, because the time difference is matters. It's not students coming from local or from Malaysia, but we have students from Middle East, from Bangladesh, from Indonesia, so they have a different time difference from us. So we have to have a set of engagement that any updates to be done within the official time period, and they can check it later on. And if say we have a quiz, or we have some kind of discussion or pre-meeting, so we need to plan earlier so that they get this information early, then they can plan of their time, because a time difference is also a matters now because of the demography where the student actually located. And of course, the other thing is the setup of the constant meeting with the what you call as the group that we have, and ensuring that they have a peers to discuss if any matters regarding to the topic that have been discussed in the class. So I think that's overall of the context that we have. And I think the other thing is because we also engage more we kind of online global classroom. So we have a teaching and learning with the because now it's online, then we invite also our professors from other countries to teach. Just to share with you, I believe like and I think UKM, they have also this kind of activities. But for MJIT, we are very much closer with our Japanese university. We have about 30 Japanese universities working with us under the consortium of Japanese University Consortium. So we are actually organizing the online global classroom with the professors from Japanese universities, and together with the students from that universities, and with our universities, and we arrange this time period together. Because I think that's another advantage of the pandemic, whereby students can meet virtually, and they can start to know each other. And hopefully that when this situation is getting better, they can meet physically face to face, and they know so prior on that. So we can cross the what call as only not only within the country, the student not only within our student, but other university students can also getting closer to each other. So that's another opportunity that we can look at on this e-leadership development. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much for sharing, Professor Adi. I think all three, Professor Samim and Dr. Mai, and also Professor Adi, we've kind of discussed about inclusivity, I believe. As of now, the transition is technically a work in progress, but we've Malaysian higher institutions, we are trying to cater to mental health and financial needs and also personal needs of students as a way to compensate for the traditional ways of how we were doing things, and also to narrow the communication gaps by conducting online global classrooms and communicating with them frequently, kind of checking on them from time to time. I think this is where academic advisors kind of come in as e-leaders in this case. So very hopeful note indeed. Moving on to the fourth question, since we've been engaging very actively about the fourth industrial revolution, and it also seems like the pandemic silver lining is to kind of experiment with technologies and cooperative approaches that could lead to more safer and a sustainable and a more inclusive global future. Hence, this question is directed to Dr. Mai actually. Is Malaysia truly equipped or prepared for the pursuit of IR 4.0? And how does e-leadership kind of play a crucial role towards this progression?
If you look at the history of IR4 in Malaysia, so the first initiative, of course, if you talk about a worldwide initiative, it started more way before us. Okay, but in Malaysia, I think the official initiative started in 2016. Okay, so in 2016, we talk about IR4, how automation is the gist of what IR4 is all about. Okay, how we can increase the revenue from manufacturing sectors, how can we leverage AI, okay, so that we can produce more revenues, okay, in certain sectors like agriculture, for instance, or tourism, for instance. Okay, but the official, I would say, policy is just launched this year. So of course, to be honest, I think we, infrastructure-wise, we are ready. Okay, we have what it takes, okay, for us to move forward with IR4 or to actually execute what we have planned. But I think the most important thing is that, do we have the manpower for it? Okay, do we have the manpower for it? For instance, when I did one research under IRRG, impact oriented research grant under back in 2019. Okay, so it was under the IR4 umbrella. Okay, it's just that what I can observe is that we have the technology, but we do not have the manpower. The problem statement that we derive as a whole, we have 3 sub-programs under that research grant, is that the country needs about 70% of their graduates, okay, be it from the university, polytechnics, to be a master in STEM, meaning to say that they have to take science stream, okay, when they are at school. But in 2019, the number that we have is about the ratio of arts and science is about 27% to 73%, meaning 73% of students are actually taking non-science, okay, and only 27, but we need 70. manpowers that is going to work for this IR. So if you ask whether we are ready, we have all the infrastructure, but we do not have sufficient manpower. The manpower that we have now, okay, myself, okay, perhaps me would have few more years to go before the retirements. Prof. Datin, I'm not sure, okay, whether you want to continue, but the one that we have now is not sufficient, okay, for us to gear up IR4 initiative in the country. So not about we are ready or not. The infrastructure is ready. The manpower are not. Okay, so the thing that we need to do now is to go back to the root, okay, to go back to nurture science, okay, at this primary school level, at the kindergarten level. Okay, but why? Because primarily, okay, why this is happening is that because of people like us, okay, because we do not encourage our students to embark into science, because we've experienced that science is difficult, but you end up being, scientists, okay, working in the lab, but all the leaders, okay, are coming from the art stream. Okay, they are leading the organizations, the business people, those are taking MBAs, the business administration, HR people. So those are climbing up the ladder of becoming the one that have us working. Okay, so it's painful actually, but that's why I think there should be some kind of policy to look at this as a whole. Okay, so coming back to your questions, whether we are ready. Infrastructure, we have everything in place. Okay, but my concern, I'm not sure about others, but my concern is the manpower. And then another thing is that, okay, since the situation is like that, okay, so we could expect that for another, since I think maybe there's increase of, 30% of people starting to embark into STEM compared to arts, okay, number increase, but you would see the impact after 3 or 4 years, okay, after these, students have actually graduated. Okay, so to slowly how and then the question is that, okay, we have about 60-70% people that are not working, that are not STEM people. Okay, so what do we do with all this? Okay, so again, in terms of manpower, okay, this is where the government, okay, I'm not talking about the infrastructure, okay, it's about a training program to train these people that are coming from arts, okay, with STEM based knowledge and skills, so that they can actually make sure that we leverage all the technologies that we have. Okay, we are just talking about IR4. We are, if you read further, okay, in research, okay, some countries are now moving to IR5. Is IR4? If IR4 is about automation, IR5 is about personalization. What can the technology do for you? Not just for the society, for you. Personalization is like when you buy things on e-commerce platform, okay, Lazada, Shopee, Alibaba, for instance, okay, you just, if you are first time user, you click on something, you type on something, then the product will be shown to you based on the keywords that you use. Okay, but the next time you go, okay, they will, the system will use recommendation engine to actually analyze your behavior, which one you click, okay, which one you stay on for a while. So all these behavior is actually captured. So IR4 is about personalization, making sure that, okay, how can the technology actually fits you as individual, okay, not public as a whole. So I hope I answer your questions. We are ready. The manpower are not. So when we are still having our IR4 policy, okay, that is just officiated this year, okay, slowly other countries are actually moving towards IR5.
Understood, Dr. Mai. I think very beautifully said, actually. You kind of mentioned about how we are lacking manpower. This is something I believe people who are within science itself kind of tend to overlook, because we think since you're already in it, and we kind of try to get people who are already familiar with STEM to get involved, but we may not have tried to pull in people from non-STEM areas to join sciences and STEM. I think that's a very good note, actually. And then how you mentioned about IR 5.0 and personalization, I think that is way beyond our understanding as of now, since we're just trying to slowly climb up the ladder and try to achieve IR 4.0 as of now. And I think that's a very good idea. And it's also important how the government acts as a stakeholder in providing training programs for these students who are non-science related to kind of equip themselves with necessary skills. I think upskilling is very important now during digital learning, because all of us are in need to survive in this ever transitioning times, and upskilling kind of plays a major role in this. So very hopeful note indeed. And moving on to the fifth question, since we are restricted with time, I think question 5 would be the second last question before we kind of talk about the Pelan Pembangunan Negara as the last question. So this question is directed to Professor Adli, talking about digitalization creating a social divide between communities of various social strata. I think we've kind of been repeatedly talking about this, how it's very challenging for the education sector and also students and various sectors to kind of adapt to this transition. And how does the introduction of the 5G network in education and healthcare systems cater to young Malaysians in terms of e-leadership and also employment opportunities?
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's a very important question. The introduction of 5G has enabled the countries to move forward on these kind of challenges due to this pandemic. Yeah, and of course, this 5G has opened the door on the new innovation and becoming like a pillars of creating a new economy that in future that economies are actually based on creativity, and we are talking about the STEM and the shortage of manpowers in the eras of IR 4.0, whereby we were talking about the areas that being a lot on these pillars of IR 4.0 related to autonomous robots, simulation, system integration, Internet of Things, cybersecurity, cloud computing, additive manufacturing, augmented reality, and big data. So these are the clusters of these pillars of IR 4.0. And whereby, back to the issues just now, the infrastructure already in place where we can upgrade it, putting much investment on that, or we have these kind of investors coming in to invest on that kind of facilities. But the core issues is, are we ready for that? I mean, are we ready? Meaning that is our people ready? If the people joining or embracing the STEM education not sufficient enough to support these new pillars of economy. So this is a big challenge that I hope that those in the what you call as policies development should be looking at this very much, because without this, I think our competitiveness as a nation in the coming futures, I think, like Timoli, you are future leaders, and embracing on this direction is very important, and looking forward how the countries competing themselves to the higher levels. Yeah, and when we talk about the 5Gs, it's involved a kind of how this 5Gs can play a very much role in defining the connectivities in Malaysia that involve, of course, the commercialization of the technologies in the process of developing this solution. And I think the estimated growth of the 5G's economy, based on this, the notion is we need to have enough human resource that able to absorb the new knowledge, the new skill that is needed by the industries. And the estimation values is about more than 12 billion until 2021, until 2025. Yeah. So this is from the MCMC's data. Yeah. And of course, the prospect is developing more than around 40,000 new jobs. Yeah. That based on the creativity is innovative and encompassing the cloud computing services that is already in place. Yeah. And therefore, I think this is very, very critical issues that we have to look at and how this notion or the knowledge of application of 5Gs, yeah, towards educational sectors, and of course from all spectrum of people who embracing the STEM education should be introduced to them in a very early stage, so that they'll be able to engage it very much in these virtual learning activities. Yeah, and of course, I think the other one is on the applicabilities of this 5G. We'll be able to provide a new framework. Yeah, especially like in healthcare. Yeah, nowadays, yeah, we are having this. We have the contact tracing, for instance. My Sejahtera, people are using it very much today. So heavily on data. Yeah. So without that data being collected and being there in place, so we could not understand the situation on the ground. Yeah. So therefore, I think in a nutshell, I would say that when we talk about the 5G in education, yeah, and healthcare system is something that is already in place. But the bottom line is we need to have a feeder for them. So this is our role now: promoting, engaging, and making people to understand that if we want to move forward by not capitalizing, but utilizing this 5G network for the job creation of the future. Thank you.
Great, thank you for sharing, Professor Ali. I think looking at how Malaysia has come so far in terms of digitalization, we do have the opportunities that are coming up. It's just that the typical sort of job opportunities that are out there, people kind of go for those sort of opportunities instead of venturing new opportunities. We, as youth, we may not be exposed to such opportunities yet. For example, data science and AI. Those are kind of opportunities that are on the rise right now. And I believe this is where public institutions come into place, and they have to kind of encourage us youth in a very persuasive manner, I would say, to disseminate or remove all those typical ideologies that we have and the typical job opportunities that we always go for. And very hopeful note indeed, Professor Ali. So moving on to the final question. Earlier this year, the then government kind of launched its digital economy blueprint via economic planning unit or ataupun Plan Pembangunan Negara. And some of the key aspects of the blueprint consisted of cloud, cybersecurity, and 5G deployment, which are pretty much the aspects that we've been discussing throughout the entire hour. So all questions directed towards all four panelists. What are all of your brief and very, very brief and hopeful thoughts and criticisms on the proposals? Maybe we can start with Dr. Samin first. Professor Samin.
Okay. I'm going to raise a few questions, and this may be related to the first, third, and fifth thrust of the plan. What do we call it? The plan that we were talking about. Okay. We've all used Grab, I'm sure. We've used Foodpanda, we've used Lalamove, and when we buy through Zalora and Lazada and Alibaba, Shopee, we can track our goods. But does Post Malaysia provide that facility? Now, I once bought a very, very expensive book from US, if I'm not wrong. And I actually asked the seller to send by courier, or at least through registered post. Unfortunately, the seller did not do that. He just sent through Post Malaysia, ordinary post. And I lost the book. From that day onwards, I lost my faith in Post Malaysia. I mean, for ordinary letters, bills and all that, yeah, Post Malaysia. But how reliable is Post Malaysia? And how is Post Malaysia actually competing with all these other services that are provided? Courier service, all the other kind of services that we can use when we buy things online. Now, if you buy something in the UK, for instance, online, everything is through Royal Mail. You would never think of using anything else. Everything is through Royal Mail, either first class or second class. They have classes in their post. And you would never think that you will lose anything in the post. And as I said, I'm talking from experience. I've lost not once, but a few times things in the post. So these are things that we need to think about. And another thing is, have you tried renewing your passport during the pandemic? Or road tax, license. I've been trying to renew my license. Are we ready for going online? Okay, this is related to thrust 1, thrust 3, and the 5th thrust. And also, you want to get married, you still have to go to the Qadhi's office. My cousin wanted to get married, wasn't able to do so in Selangor, had to move to KL. Couldn't do so in Selangor because the Qadhi's office or Jabatan, whatever you call it, the Agama Islam, was closed during the pandemic. The one in KL was open. Usually when you get married, you have to get married where you're from. If you live in Selangor, you have to get married. You have to get the permission from that Jabatan, from the Selangor Jabatan. But they have to go to the one in KL because only the one in KL is open. And we're talking about, these are government servants. We're talking about working from home. But if the office is closed and they cannot even issue permission for someone to get married, what are they doing at home? Are they getting paid?
Of course.
And yeah, okay. Dr. Nuizam has got a big smile on his face. Another thing, my daughter is living in the UK. When she buys things on Amazon, she's not at home. Her things get dropped by drones in her backyard. Imagine if this happens in our country. Somebody will jump over your fence and take whatever the drone has delivered. So are we ready? Technologically, we may be, but our people are ready. Basic things like not being able to renew your passport, not being able to renew your license, not being able to renew your road tax. We all know we cannot drive without a road tax, without a license. We cannot go anywhere. Well, maybe we cannot go anywhere because of the pandemic, but we have students who are going overseas. So how do you renew your passport? I'm glad to find out that you can actually register the birth of a new child. So if you have babies, you can register online. Well, at least that is working. Yeah, but these are something that we need to think about, and those who are in that position and who can advise the people that be must think about. Yes, I have faith in the blueprint. I am sure if we put our hearts and soul to it, technologically, we can make it work. But we still need to groom our people. We still need to advise our people. We still need to create awareness. We still need to bring their mentality to a certain stage that when someone drops something in your backyard, in my backyard, that the third person has no right to jump over my fence and get it. And if you're working from home, you are working from home. If we in the university can have vivas, PhD vivas, master's vivas, we can have undergraduate exams, we can have all kinds of meetings. Why can't a Qadhi provide permission for a couple to get married? Is he not being paid during that period that he is sitting at home? It's something very, very basic, something that somebody should have thought about it. When you say work from home, no, you and I are working from home. I have meetings until 10 o'clock at night. I work on Saturdays and Sundays too. I have meetings on Saturdays and Sundays. But of course, people in the private sector says government servants are not working. We are government servants and we are working. But there are some in the government service that's giving the service a bad name.
Agree.
And we can have all kinds of blueprint. We can have AI blueprint. We can have any kind of blueprint if our people are not ready. Again, this is not technology. This is people. Okay, how prepared are we? And this goes back to background, to the basics also. When the schools were having online classes, how are our poor students at home with no connectivity, not even a smartphone doing? Our kindergarten students, our primary school students, secondary school students might have a phone. They might from time to time pester their parents to give them a handphone. But primary school students, standard 1 student, how did they manage? Kindergarten students? Okay, so these are basic that we need to think of. And even vaccination, yeah? Vaccination, those grandmothers who cannot download MySejahtera, don't even know what MySejahtera is, don't know what an app is. Grandfathers, how did they do it? I downloaded for my mother. But for my grandmother, we just add as a dependent, if they have dependents living with them. So this, we need to, when we look at grandiose plans, which we know our universities can tackle, our youths can handle, our future leaders can handle, we need to look at the basics. Can our people manage? Can our people do it? Have we got that kind of mentality, or are we still having? Are we a third world
Mentality.
first world country with a third world mentality?
Yes, agree.
Yes, true.
Thank you.
Okay,
Professor Sami.
I don't mean to be negative, but this I'm talking from experience.
I think what you're speaking is very real from a true Malaysian perspective, because we can go on and on about how we have blueprints and then we constantly have developments coming in. And as you say, grandeur plans, but what about the implementation? We can come up with plans, a 10-year, 20-year plan, but how are we going to implement it? Are our people ready? Although we have experts coming up with the infrastructure, as Dr. Mai mentioned before, our people ready? So essentially that, I think that would be the question here. And maybe we can open the space for one more panelist to kind of conclude this question before we move on to the Q&A. Any of the panelists would like to offer your input?
I
Okay,
think,
Professor Ali,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, I think the notion shared by Prof. Samin is very, very true on, I think this is, as I mentioned in a very early stage of my sharing about the human productivity index. Yeah. So we have those technologies in place. Yeah. And then we have the policy, and of course the way forward is already being written, being planned, being reiterated many times. And I think this is the way forward that we have to look at how to keep the ball rolling. So I think this is the challenging part. And working at home, some people work exhaustively 9 to 5, not 9 to 5, but 9 to 12, but sometimes even in the early morning, you wake up at 4 in the morning and then you work, and it is like a catering. And like us and educators, we are working around the clock because our students globally now, we are no longer having, you know, the luxury of 9 to 5 or 9 to 6. Even at midnight, we have a meeting at 10. We have to meet our student in Dubai, student in UAE, or in Uganda, yeah, in Nigeria. So that's what's happening now. Is across the globe, yeah. And when we talk about the human productivity index, so how actually those notion of understanding and embarking on these competitive ways of doing things, and because otherwise we will lag behind. So our awareness that I think by having this STEM education is very important, and empowering young generation to move forward in this direction. At the same time, we have to actually mirror ourselves, yeah, as a country, yeah. We mirror to Indonesia, for instance. We mirror to Singapore. I think Singapore is the first world in a way of they are implementing the process. Like Vietnam, for instance, they are there. I mean, they are competing very much, and these are the things that we have to look ourselves as a nation, yeah, and how we could moving forward, yeah, speedily. Otherwise, we will lag behind. This is our awareness as I think Prof. Datin and Dr. Maiza saying that our time probably very short now. So, but we are leaving it to the next generation to have a fruitful thinking about that. And by having this notion of digital leadership, we say that, or e-leadership. So you have the opportunity to expand and grow based on the things that you're passionate to do. That's the gist of the quality of the things that we can develop together. So that's my take on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Ali. I think we kind of ended it in a very positive note. I feel instead of feeling dreadful and wondering, why is it so unfortunate that we've got to do all of this and times have changed and we're all left behind, but instead kind of look at it as a learning opportunity to explore yourself and explore things out of your comfort zone. I think that is what youth now should kind of focus on, instead of dwelling on the lacking of physical opportunities. We have like Coursera, platforms like Coursera, and I've been taking on lots of online modules myself for free, actually, no payment required. So these are kind of opportunities that we can kind of look out for. And yes, so we are going to proceed with the Q&A right now. We have a question from Ong Ziken, upcoming second year BA history student from and I think we can kind of direct this question to Dr. Nur Hisham. We are aware that the IPTAs might be open for the upcoming semester for physical learning. Hence, how is the hybrid learning mode to be carried out in the upcoming semester?
Okay, thank you. Okay, by the way, in UKM, I believe in other public university as well, we received the instruction to open the campus. So first thing in mind, are we ready for that? Particularly due to the vaccination kind of thing. We don't want to have any campus cluster, for example, to have this hybrid kind of thing. But still in my faculty, we are moving forward for the next semester to have in online thing, but not sure yet. There's still sometimes as blur, I don't know what's the word, blurry instruction sometimes from the ministry, from I don't know what kind of issues. It's make us confused state as well. Imagine, because you mentioned your question is about the hybrid, whether we want to go for hybrid or we want to go for full physical. If full physical, who's going to check your double vaccination? In fact, if we went to some of the shops, dua vaksin baru boleh masuk, but nobody care. If someone is spreading this COVID, although we claim it's already become endemic, not pandemic, the post-pandemic now is endemic. Imagine. Because actually there's a lot of things we do not know. How's the so-called in lab, the social distancing, and then how to invite back even our lecturers to come over after a few months to have in this new norms kind of thing. If you want to go hybrid, yes, must, as mentioned by Prof. Datin and Prof. Ali about the usage of the technology in place, and as well as the instruction must be properly delivered to us. Otherwise, it's like, okay, pelajar balik kampung dan sebagainya, all the buses, and then suddenly there's a kind of COVID or pandemic. We are worried about that. Same case as well with when we want to open for the schools to be open by October. How is actually people don't get the vaccination? Our children not get the vaccination. Plus, I believe some in the universities also maybe a few percentage reluctant to be vaccinated. We don't know what are the issues. So this thing we never know. We cannot blame them. I mean. Maybe they claim this is their right, whatsoever. But in case these people are the pembawa, the carrier, who we never know, we cannot see this. This vaccine doesn't care whatever you are. We are lecturer, professor, student, politician, whatever. Then if you don't have this so-called vaccination, then you come to our campus, for example. So not really, I would say that not really, I don't know, my opinion, not really encourage, we don't encourage to have. It must be really a proper instruction, proper SOP, how the student can come in. In fact, if you ask the student also, we don't know. We just receive instruction. They're like arahan, what kind of arahan? And then some of them, they change the phone number, also email, they don't reply email. And even always change their phone number and do not know how we want to deliver our instruction to them in the faculty. Imagine. So that's my maybe from the ground. I would like to see this thing, and not from the theoretical is good, but from our experience and practical things happening to us. Okay, over to you back, Timothy.
Great, thank you, Dr. Nurhizam. I think from what I understand now, is that we have policies, we have ideas, but they may not be relevant or as practical as we think it may be. We can, on the government's level, on policymakers, they can come up with initiatives, but I think what is lacking here is practicality. And
can I add?
Yes, yes, Professor.
The UM policy is that only fully vaccinated students and staff will be allowed back on campus, but we're still waiting for the official announcement. And we are also trying to find out how many students have been fully vaccinated, and if they have not, we are going to aid them in getting the vaccination. And at the same time, if there are students who are anti-vaxxers, we are going to try and get them to see through counseling sessions, and I wouldn't call it counseling sessions, but sessions in which, if possible, we can advise or persuade them to be vaccinated. And coming back to shops and all that, my daughter has been vaccinated. She's got her second dose, but she has still not reached that 14 days after vaccination. Fully vaccinated means 2 weeks after your second dose. So when we tried to go to a shop, she was not allowed in. So this is going to be for most premises, I believe, including mosques, shopping malls, and hotels, and so on. So even hospitals, if you're visiting a friend or a relative, you will not be allowed in if you are not fully vaccinated. So for those who are anti-vaxxers, they're going to have a lot of problems. They can't stay alone at home, I'm sure, when everyone can go out. So something for them to think about.
All right. Thank you for sharing, Professor Sami. I think one note is don't forget to get yourselves vaccinated, and even if you haven't gotten an appointment, go to the walk-in centers and get yourself
Exactly.
vaccinated as soon as possible. Okay, so final question will be directed to Dr. Mai actually. How can we become successful STEM leaders?
So leaders are not born. Okay, leaders are trained. So everyone can have got chance to be leader. So at the campus level, when you are students, okay, try to get to get yourself involved with all these students associations, whatever activities being done by the universities, and all these are need to be done voluntarily. We cannot force you. Okay, of course, there are some courses that embed this. Okay, you have co-curriculum, you have some khusus elective that you can take to further enhance your leadership skills, but you have to have that drive to do it. You cannot say that, oh, I didn't learn that at the university. Oh, I'm not given the opportunity. The opportunity, you have to seek for the opportunity. You have to, step out of your comfort zone. Okay, don't just point fingers and say that I'm not given the opportunity. I don't have, the time to my time fulfill with all the assignments. I have to do this. All students doing that. So, when you go for interview, for instance, okay, how would you differentiate yourself with your other 3,000, 4,000 graduates from the same field, okay, that are actually hunting for the same job that you are looking for? So in here, you need to differentiate yourself with others. So all this need to come from within. If you ask how to be successful STEM leaders, okay, research shows, okay, that, okay, those who have got background in the studies, okay, meaning to say that, let's say you are an engineer or you are a trained scientist. If you work in organizations, okay, and then you manage to climb the ladder to become a leader, okay, you is at an advantage of knowing what is happening at the root, okay, up to knowing how to actually manage your staff well, because you know from end to end. Compared to people who are taking business admin, you do not know the actual science process that is happening if you are working in manufacturing company, for instance. So perhaps there will be some disadvantage there when we are talking about adapting with new technologies to increase the profits and revenues. Okay, what are the problems that cause delays in production, for instance? Okay, so if you do not have the knowledge in that, okay, that will be disadvantage for you. So to be a good STEM leaders, you are in STEM is one good step forward, okay, but you need to move further yourself, okay, and then learn. Coursera provide a lot of I know Coursera, Udemy provide a lot of leadership courses, and then invest your money, okay, to read all the leadership books, okay, by all these famous people, habits of highly effective people. I don't know, I can't remember most of them. Perhaps I can just quickly Googled, The Alchemist, okay, The Truth About Leadership, Good to Great, okay, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, Delivering Happiness, The Innovator's Dilemma. So, invest sometime, and all these are actually free. Actually free, okay, if you manage to find the right source for it. So I think that is how you can be a good STEM leader. Okay, it's good that you are coming from STEM background. Okay, because definitely, okay, if you really want, you are really passionate about it, you'll become a good STEM leader. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mai. I think just what we always say, Rajin ka membaca. I think that's very, very crucial to kind of understand what great leaders have in store for us youth and upcoming STEM leaders. Not essentially only STEM leaders, but leaders overall. I think it's very important to read as well. So that will be the end of our Q&A session today. And the key takeaways from this forum, titled E-Leadership Post-Pandemic, is the importance of being informed and to be updated with current events and advancements, talking about what all the 4 panelists said, to ensure that you're on the right track and you're not left behind, because e-leadership and digital transformations kind of give you an advantage or an upper hand in moving forward. And since I believe if not most if not all who have tuned in today are youth, and it is also extremely crucial to be on the lookout and grab leadership opportunities that are relevant to your passion and interests to consistently upskill yourself. And advancements may be very overwhelming, as we discussed, but to face the challenges head on, because the fears you don't face end up becoming your limits, somehow or the other. And thank you so much to our 4 panelists and all the audience for tuning in. Do participate in the 5 minutes manifesto competition by STEM Ambassador, and the details of the competition can be found on STEM Center social media websites. Now we shall take a quick virtual picture of all the panelists on board today. So please give us your brightest smiles.
Sure. So all the panelists and moderator, give your brightest smile. I'm gonna take a picture. Okay, be ready in 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, sure. Let me check the picture out first. Good, and here. Okay, can we do just one more, just as backup? Okay, give me your brightest smile again. Okay, in 3, 2, 1, smile. Wonderful. Yeah. Okay, I've saved that. Okay, back to you then.
Can you share in the LinkedIn?
Sure, absolutely. I'm
yes.
gonna do an appreciation post soon. Don't worry.
Around the world. Oh my God.
Please share with us, yeah?
Sure, absolutely. So I think I can try to wrap up from here. Okay, sure. So once again, I would like really to say thank you so much to all the panelists. First of all, I'd like to apologize for dragging the time. It's already 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and what I would say is such an amazing and hitful
Exactly, yes.
discussion. To be honest, but it takes on the realistic side of how we need to address this issue, even not from the campus level or lecturer or student level, but in fact, it covers nationwide to the uppermost management, if I can say. Yeah, so that's where it goes, the direction of the discussion today. So I really want to say thank you so much to everyone for tuning in until now. Don't worry, this session is also being live streamed to YouTube, and I will be handing in the YouTube link to all of our panelists. So perhaps you'd like to share today's discussion link to all your students, perhaps. I really appreciate that. Don't worry, I will also be updating the picture of today too. So yeah, that's all for today. Thank you so much and have a very pleasant day. Okay, goodbye everyone. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.